madlang people. At ito, si Kuya Keeeem. At ito ang Matanglawin. Alam niyo ba na ang war ay galing sa old German word na wera? At ito ay may kinalaman sa ating episode ngayon. Ang episode natin ngayon ay tungkol kay Sun Tzu. Sino ba si Sun Tzu? Alamin natin ngayon sa ating episode.
Sun Tzu, originally named Sun Wu, and also called Changqing, authored The Art of War in the 6th century BC. This military strategy book became one of the most influential books of war, and Sun Tzu became well known as not only a military strategist but also a realist in international relations theory. There are no exact records of Sun Tzu's birth or death. The only known records of his life were from a biography written in the 2nd century BC by a historian named Sima Qian. His family were members of the Shi, an ancient class of the landless aristocrats who lost their land during the spring and autumn period of territorial consolidation. During Sun Tzu's time, most Shi traveled as academic scholars, but Sun Tzu decided to work as a mercenary. General in 512 BC, Sun Tzu consequently authored The Art of War, which at the time was named Sun Tzu, based on the custom to name a work after its author. Sun Tzu's military strategy soon became legendary, and he even proved his knowledge by training battalions of previously untrained female soldiers. At the time of Sun Tzu's generalship, the kingdom of Wu was considered a semi-barbaric state and incapable of military regulation or cultural power. After Sun Tzu took control, however, the military in Wu went on to conquer the state of Chu, the most powerful state in the spring and autumn period in Chinese history. After the defeat of Chu, Sun Tzu disappeared, wanting a quiet, peaceful life as opposed to one of constant conflict. His teachings, however, went on to influence not only military strategies, but also martial arts in both armed and unarmed combat. In fact, his teachings, known as Bing Fa, became the basis for most Asian martial arts. According to historians, Sun Tzu's philosophies were more about how to avoid war while still maintaining control over an enemy in tight situations rather than war itself. Although there are no confirmations that the two met, Sun Tzu lived during the time of Confucius and may have been influenced by the man's work. It's estimated that Sun Tzu died in 496 BC in the state of Wu. The Art of War is a Chinese military treatise written during the 6th century BC by Sun Tzu, composed of 13 chapters, each of which is devoted to one aspect of warfare. It has long been praised as the classic work on military strategies and tactics of its time. As one of the oldest and most famous studies of strategy, it has had a huge influence on military planning, business tactics, and beyond. It had been credited with influencing Napoleon, the German general staff, and even the planning of Operation Desert Storm. Leaders as diverse as Mao Zedong, Bong Yap, and General Douglas MacArthur have claimed to have drawn inspiration from the work.
Did you know that we know little of Sun Tzu? Why? Because there is only one written biography of his life. Oh my God!
May mga kalaban dun. Nawala yung parin ko. Namatay. Ano ba yun? Buka! Nasaan ba? Misino! Misino! Misonso! Paano ba? Ano? Ito?
pala yan. Oh, teka muna. Oh, dito pala tayo ngayon sa Velez. We're gonna talk about the art of war and how we can apply it in our daily life. So let's go to Professor Keeebein to talk about the art of war. Tayo na. Let's go. Bilisan mo. Oh. Professor Keeebein.
Kuya Keeeem,
Oh,
parating ka.
may tatanong sana ako sa'yo tungkol sa art of war. May alam ka ba dyan? Sino bang may alam
yun,
ba?
Sun Tzu.
Oo,
may alam ko
nga.
doon.
Professor Keeebein, alam mo ba kung saan ba ito ma-apply yung ng art of war sa ating buhay?
Okay. Si Sun Tzu was a 5th century military strategist. He codified these laws which are used by military strategists today. So how could we apply it in our daily life? So bigay po nito about it. Therefore, the skillful commander takes up a position in which he cannot be defeated and misses no opportunity to make master his enemy. So the enemy does not have to be another individual. The enemy can be ourselves for mastering such bad habits as procrastination or even second-guessing our abilities and capabilities. Sun Tzu's strategy is an excellent conceptual framework. So, framework for understanding that we are in charge of ourselves and our habits. When we miss no opportunity to recognize that we are procrastinating, we can then take the steps needed to defeat our negative thoughts, processes, and complete the necessary tasks.
Ganun ba?
No, yun.
Pwede ka ba magbigay ng isa pang halimbawa para mas maintindihan ko ang art of war?
Oo nga, sige. The clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him. We do not usually consider our children to be our mortal enemies. But in a battlefield of wills with a child, Sun Tzu's code is quite applicable. Successful parenting requires clever and wise strategies for not allowing the disobedient and argumentative child to control the conversation or to get his or her way simply by exercising force or fear.
Ganun ba? Totoo nga na ma-apply sa ating buhay ang art of war, di ba?
Yun, ganoon.
Oo nga.
So, in summary, these are just two of Sun Tzu's principles that apply to both relentless, merciless attacks, but which also apply on far more benign levels to the lesser enemies in our personal lives, even when the enemy is our own creatures.
Oh, Professor Keeebein, salamat talaga sa impormasyon na binigay mo sa akin tungkol sa art of war. Salamat. At may pupuntahan pa ako ng malayong lugar. Doon sa hindi ko alam, pero pupuntahan ko. Okay?
Padaan mo yun.
Pupuntahan ako. 3, 2, 1.
In my search for answers, I was starting to ask, could art of war be used in other areas in life?